Hi, teachers. Welcome back to week 17. This week, our goal is to look at engineering marvels to combat climate change. So, how engineers are using technology to combat and counteract the damage we've done to our environment through carbon dioxide emissions. So, looking at our UN sustainable goals, again, we're looking at affordable and clean energy, climate action, looking at being responsible consumers, and having sustainable communities that we live in. So we want to begin by reviewing last week's challenge, which was to watch the Lorax. And in the Lorax, there was a quote that said, "Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better." It's not. So talk to the students. What did they think about that? What did it mean to them? All right. And have a little conversation about it. Now, opening discussion is this. So we have discussed for weeks now about carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases and how they are bad for the climate and how we can reduce the amount we produce. But is there a way we can actually remove it and reverse the damage we've done? See, we have talked about how we can be more responsible consumers, reduce the amount of plastic we use, reduce the amount of carbon dioxide that we make and the carbon footprint that we have. But that doesn't actually fix the problem. All right, it slows down the problem, but doesn't reverse the problem. See, we've already emitted carbon dioxide into the air. We've already emitted a lot of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and done damage. Can we reverse the damage? Can we undo what we've done using technology? So there are two ways to possibly do this. There's the biological and the mechanical. So biological would be using nature to solve our problem. So is it possible to use nature to fix the carbon dioxide problem that we have? Well, this video here talks about that. It talks about what if we planted 1 trillion trees around the world. If we planted 1 trillion trees, would that be enough trees to reverse the amount of carbon dioxide that we produce, right? They take in carbon dioxide and they emit oxygen back out, right? So can 1 trillion trees capture and sequester? Sequestering means to hold on to capture it. Can they capture enough carbon dioxide to reverse it? And the answer is unfortunately no. 1 trillion trees would only do about a 25% of all that we produce as mankind every year. So that's explained in the movie, okay? So that's where that one's headed. So trees are good. We should plant more trees. It's in the right direction, but it's not enough. Here's a little video about some college students, all right, not much older than the students in our own school, how they're attempting to solve the carbon dioxide problem using algae. So they produce a little algae farm that's attached to a local power plant. So the emissions from the power plant, the smoke from the power plant, goes up and then gets cycled through these algae farms. And the algae eats the carbon dioxide, uses it for energy, and then they harvest the algae and use it to make biofuels and stuff with. So the carbon dioxide never gets released into the atmosphere, and they actually use it to make biofuels out of it. It's interesting. Now it's just a little pilot program, but it is definitely an option for scaling up in the future. So it's pretty interesting. Now that was using biology, using Mother Nature to help fix a problem. But is there a better way, a more efficient way? And that's using mechanical carbon sequestering. So capturing carbon using engineering and mechanics. So yes, there is one way, and this video here shows how in British Columbia, Vancouver, up in north in Canada, how a company just outside Vancouver is actually sucking carbon dioxide out of the air. They have giant fans that pull in air, and then it goes through a chemical process and actually removes the carbon dioxide directly out of the air. Now the interesting is they can take that leftover carbon dioxide and convert it into fuels, into all kinds of interesting products. And they'll talk about that in this video. That if we had one of these plants next to every electrical power plant in the world, our world would be carbon neutral instantly. So if we built one of these plants next to every power plant in the world, we would be carbon neutral. In fact, we would actually be pulling more carbon out of the air than we put into the air. So we'd be going carbon negative. We'd actually be reversing the damage done. So this is a possibility for undoing all the damage we've done. Now it's a little long, it's 14 minutes long, but it's pretty good. Bill Gates is one of the primary backers of this technology. So if we could scale up this technology, right, the entire planet would go carbon neutral. All right, but unfortunately, it's very, 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 very expensive, and it's too expensive for one investor to pay the bill. It's actually too expensive for even one nation to fit the bill. So, how can we get people and governments around the world to come together to invest in this technology? All right, if it were able to produce a product, if they capture the carbon dioxide and they turn it into what they talk about is a gasoline, right? They say they can make gasoline out of the carbon they collect from the air. If they could sell that gasoline, well, that makes them profitable. So if the factory became profitable, that would make more sense. So how can we help them get their products that they've made to market? Okay, if we can get their products that they've made to market, they all of a sudden become profitable, and it makes sense to build these around the world then. So those are all questions that you can have with kids, questions that the engineers and the scientists and the activists up in Canada are still trying to solve right now. And if they can solve those problems, then we have actually a viable solution for moving carbon dioxide out of our atmosphere in large quantities. Here's a really interesting company that's taking a unique approach to it in India. They're actually collecting raw carbon dioxide straight from the power plants and factories and doing a little chemical process to it and taking the carbon, just the carbon part of it, and turning it into a powder that they then use to make building tiles. These really cool one-off piece tiles that they make, and they've actually used them in multiple houses already. But yes, they're taking the carbon that should be going into the atmosphere and turning it into a building tile. Pretty cool. The next up, we have one about reducing cement's carbon footprint. I did not know this. This is interesting to me that 1/3 of all the carbon dioxide that's released into the atmosphere comes from the production of cement. That's crazy. The production of cement at the factory accounts for 1/3 of all carbon dioxide emissions in the world. And you think, how could that be? Well, actually, cement is huge, right? It's everywhere. Every building, every modern building uses cement. All the highways down south use cement. Cement and concrete are the two primary building ingredients that are used in everything. Um, and the amount of energy that is needed to make that cement releases huge amounts of carbon dioxide. So here's some engineers that have figured out a way to not only make it carbon neutral, but to actually make their concrete and cement over time absorb carbon out of the atmosphere. So it's pretty interesting. Another way that they can reduce the amount of carbon going to the atmosphere using technology. The last one we got, I believe, is artificial trees. This guy has made it looks like artificial turf, grass, right? It's actually carbon sucking plastic material. It sucks in, it draws in carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, attaches it to itself, and then you can clean it. Literally, kind of wash it off, and it washes off the carbon dioxide, and you stick it back out and reuse it again. He would like to cover all kinds of green spaces out there in the world. He says it's actually more efficient than a tree. So, conclusion: in order to remove carbon dioxide that man has put into the atmosphere, it is going to take a variety of solutions working together. Sorry for the phone. We need to plant trees and support sustainable forest management while looking to technology to pick up a load of trees, to pick up the load that trees cannot handle alone. So we need more trees. We need to use Mother Nature and biology to solve the problem, but we also need to step up our game when it comes to technology and the mechanical side of it. We need both sides. We really need all mankind coming together with the engineers and the mechanical side and the trees and planting more of them and protecting our forests. They come together to actually fix our problem because we really don't want our planet overheating, as we looked at before with global warming. It's going to be a problem if it does. So the challenge for this week is: should we focus on being carbon negative or carbon neutral? So carbon neutral simply means that whatever we put into the atmosphere, we pull back out again. So it just goes in a circle. We burn it, it goes into the atmosphere, we capture it, bring it back in. So we use every bit that we put in. So that's the goal, right? Is to be carbon neutral. But that doesn't fix the problem that's already been, the damage that's already been done. That doesn't fix it. That just simply starts from day forward, All right, capturing all the carbon we put in. Should we focus on not just being carbon neutral, but also being carbon negative, which means not only collecting what we put into the atmosphere now, but taking more out of it? Good question, big question. So that's what we should talk about with our kids. Again, it's a real struggle, it's a real challenge to actually get that far to do all that. Teachers, have a good week. We got 2 more sets of lessons after this, and then we'll start our capstone project. Have a great and wonderful day.